How much are you willing to sacrifice for convenience? That is pretty much the question that needs to be answered now. Because if you've seen anything with Nintendo's whole pricing stuff and how they're basically treating physical games and trying to make it more inconvenient for people just because they can, or whether it's something like anime and how it's made, like something like Twin Hina Hime, and seeing how that show is gonna ultimately just be nothing but AI usage, or at least AI assisted when it comes down to it. And even when it comes down to things as simple as cameras now use like AI upscaling resolution or whatever, which just basically takes the picture that you're taking a picture of and then guesses that what it actually is supposed to be in full-blown detail. We're getting to a point, and we probably already at that point, where convenience is very much a topic of discussion that really does not really get looked in the way it should, because no one really thinks about it that hard. Like, if it's just right there ready and available for me to use or whatever, then what the hell is the problem with it? The problem is a lot of stuff that we used to have and a lot of stuff that used to be done ultimately is going to get wrapped the hell up. Like, let's take Nintendo's whole like prices and all that type of stuff, what they're trying to push out with the Switch 2, for example. They basically are just saying, yo, just get digital, that's all you ever need, because physicals don't mean anything, right? And if you want something physical, there's a 95% chance that the game will pretty much just be a code in a box, or it will be higher than the digital aspect of it. Which, my whole thing is, when it comes down to it, I don't necessarily mind something of convenience, but at the very same time, I don't want it to be bullshit convenience, right? Where it's like, oh, I buy a digital game. That's literally it. Like, if I'm being honest, that game should come with something else that's worth the value of $80 damn or $70 damn or whatever, because for me personally, that's just not something I'm willing to spend money on, right? Like, I really don't care if it's a Mario Kart world or whatever. It doesn't necessarily matter to me, because at the end of the day, it's just like, yeah, I'm not spending 80 on drive around, do random things and all that type of stuff. If I feel like doing a game like that, or if I feel like just playing a game where I can drive around or things like that, you got old ass retro games for that shit, or you got old ass racing games for that shit. Need for Speed Underground 2, or like Midnight Club 3, or something that's sort of like, I don't know, maybe not exactly like a just drive around game, but you got Need for Speed The Run, or some other games and such, right? Where you can have something equally enjoyable that doesn't require you to spend 80 whole ass dollars. That doesn't require you to spend 80 whole ass dollars on something that you're probably gonna play, but from a lot of people, it's probably also just gonna play a few times and maybe not play really that much, right? I didn't even get the last Mario Kart. The last time I played Mario Kart 8 was when it was at GameStop, and they just let you play a demo of like a racetrack. That was basically it. That was the only time I've done so. Everything past that, no, I never really played that, And that's ultimately how it is. I know I can't speak for really anyone but myself, so I'll keep it very much a stat of how I feel when it comes down to these gaming prices, and just the sake of convenience of really anything as a whole. To me, when it comes to gaming prices, if they're really going to set the industry standard to say, oh, every game is now going to be $80 and for full price, I'll be real. If that game does not have Final Fantasy Part 3 or Final Fantasy 7 Part 3, if it's not Kingdom Hearts, like a new Kingdom Hearts game, I'm not buying that shit. I'm sorry. That's just ultimately how it is. And even when it comes down to the $80 price point, which most likely the West will try to push to, when it comes down to it, I'm not going to spend money on a new game. I don't need to do so, because one, there is games that still be buggy as hell when they come out on launch, and you think that's worth $80? I don't think so. And then at the very same time, there's just, for me personally, not a lot of games I'm just that interested into getting when it comes down to it. And if there is a game that's very interesting, it's probably something old that I just never had the chance to play. Like, for example, I still want to go get Stellar Blade. Can't necessarily go get that at the moment because it's just money. But at the end of the day, I would like to very much go get that. I think it's on sale right now, if I'm not mistaken. And it comes down to the case of new games. The only new games that I really want to go get is outside like things like obviously Kingdom Hearts 4 and Final Fantasy Part 3, 7 Part 3, whenever that comes out, right? If we're talking about just immediately in this year, the only other two games I've seen that I would want to go get is Lost Soul Aside, which I've been saying I want to go get Lost Soul Aside, which that's a full price 70. Not necessarily the greatest price of all time, but it is a game that I have been curious about for a minute. And then Deltarune, which is $25. That's it. That's all I'm gonna just straight up purchase for the year. At least if I get the chance to do so, you know? So when it comes down to it, that's what I would consider worth buying, you know? Anything else that come out this year, not worth it. It's genuinely just not worth it. Not no Nintendo products, none of that. No, it's just genuinely not necessarily, in my personal opinion, it feels like it's worth it. And then for a lot of the cases, especially when you're just, you know, really look at the wide scope of how the industry is now, especially with how much they're trying to focus and push out digital type of content. Again, you got to realize these digital downloads and digital codes that you get in these boxes now, they can still very much just rip away your rights of playing those games like they've shown before, right? They could definitely rip away any of these games that they want to for whatever real deal reason, and it sucks. And Nintendo's probably the worst case of that, right? Nintendo's probably the worst and egregious people to kind of just, you know, put your hopes and dreams into digital downloads, because yeah, I feel like that would just snatch that shit up if they feel like they want to, or they can revoke your whole account if they feel like they wanted to, and all that sort of stuff. And it's just not great. It's something I wouldn't necessarily, you know, be happy with, especially a company again like Nintendo to be on that type of timing. It just, for me personally, it's just not something I'm very much gonna vibe with, because $80 for a game digitally, and I'm not truthfully owning that game and just, you know, have it whenever the hell I want to, and not lose the rights to have that game, that's crazy. At that point, if you're forking over that type of money, you should have a guaranteed right to completely own that game in every aspect of what it's normally supposed to be, like how it is in the past when it comes to things like PS2 or PS1 or stuff like that. Because the fact that we have to download our games on the internet is already something I ain't gonna necessarily lie, when I saw that shit first time in 2016, when it came down to getting a PS4 for the first time for me, and when I saw that, you know, that's how the games have to work now, especially something like FF15, I was like, wait, what? You can't just boot up the game and then call it a damn day? That's weird. And now it's just all over the damn place. And it's been something that they want to been taking advantage of for a long ass time. It's just now getting worse. So that's ultimately how it is. And the unfortunate part is, I don't really think there's a way to stop this shit. I really don't think there's a way to truthfully stop it. Because at the end of the day, they're still probably gonna just, you know, get rid of physical. And even if people were to sit here and buy, you know, the physical copy of games, they would still very much be making a shit ton of money. Especially if they're gonna push that shit to $90 in some cases, which that's overly ridiculous. I'm just not for that. And when it comes down to me, that just let me know if it's, again, not something Kingdom Hearts related, if it's not necessarily something Final Fantasy related. For the most part, I'm not spending any money on any new game. That's just ultimately how it is. And for another aspect of why that will probably be the case for me, is mainly because I got gacha games that I can play that are free to play, right? You're thinking, when it comes down to it, like, yes, I could sit here and put money towards a gacha game, but at the very end of the day, I don't have to if I don't want to. And especially when you look at the future of gacha games and what's coming out next, like in Nanta and Neverness to Everness, you don't think I'm not going to spend all my time or a lot of my time playing those games? You can have your $100 GTA if that's what you want to do. I'm playing anime GTA when that comes out, so I'm not necessarily going to be bothered by it too much. And the only time you'll probably ever see me play GTA 6, if I ever get the chance to, is probably going to be through game sharing, or somebody gives me the game. Because at that point, that's the only way I'm going to just sit here and play that game. Because I'm damn sure not spending the money on that shit. I'm not. I promise you I'm not. So that's just genuinely how it is for me in terms of, you know, what's worth the money, what isn't worth the money. And a lot of these games right now, they really ain't worth anything unless there is something like it's a story related game where it's just like, oh, I need to know the story and I don't want to get spoiled or something like that. That's why FF7 Part 3 and Kingdom Hearts 4 is like a big deal for me to go get when those drop out there. But outside of that, nothing else really matters to me that hard. I don't really need many games, if I'm being honest. Plus, I got like whole ass retro stuff that you go out and find, and you can just, use those for emulation and whatever, and you just have that. It just goes to show you that convenience is basically ruining everything, right? It is definitely being a very much annoying situation when it comes down to it, and it's just really it's for me. It feels like it's gonna come down to a point. It's like, how much convenience is too much convenience, right? How much sacrificing of the old ways is going to be just way too damn much, and then it's going to be just like, oh shit, we effed up here. Because that, I'm starting to feel like we are getting to a point where that shit should be a wake-up call to somebody, but it's obviously not going to be. And people will still buy Nintendo. People will still definitely buy Mario Kart World when that comes out. People are still going to go out their way to watch anime when it comes down to having AI assistants, which I'm not saying the idea of it's bad, but I'm also saying that how much that project is, really anime. How much of that project is really put in with the heart and soul and work of that show, you know? How much of that is actually genuine? And that could be said for literally anything of the sort when it comes down to these undercut type of tactics and things sort of like that. Yes, make things a bit easier, make things a bit faster, sure. But at the end of the day, how much do you really want to lose with that? I don't know. I just don't know. I don't really like this future, if I'm being honest. But that's what I gotta say for this one. There's probably gonna be another video today because I'm in the mood to kind of do 2 videos. So definitely go out and watch this one and then come back later for something else. Hopefully I'll be able to get that out before, the day is over with. But hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, subscribe, hit the button notification on my else, also on the socials. And if you'd like to visit the channel, Kofi and Cash App is available as well. And until then, it's been Boy J, signing off. Have a blessed day.